Alright, so today we'll be talking about the project for CSC110, and this is the pattern project. So first off, we have the turtle setup, and here is the code to set up the turtle module. We import turtle, and that allows us to draw. You can import math. I did it as a safety net because I'm not even sure if I used it. I just applied it in case if I wanted to do like extra math. And we call test. We call the screen. We call test, and the speed is just to pick it up. And these are just example colors that you can use. So first, what I did was that I created the square, and this is the first step in creating the grid because a grid is just made up of squares. So we have for I in range 4. It moves forward with whatever size we call it, and it makes a 90-degree turn. And doing this 4 times will get you a square. And here's where we get the grid function. So the grid is just repeating the square n amount of times, and after you create one square, you move forward so that the squares will not overlap. There's always an extension of a new square, and you do for I in range n because maybe you want it to be more than 1. Maybe you want it to be a 10, 100. This allows you to make your grid as big as possible, but for our case we have a 4x4 dimension. So you can see that I have it called def traps 1, short for trapezoid, because my project, I noticed that if I put 4 trapezoids together, I get the image I want. I get the pattern I want. So for a 4x4 pattern, that means that it's 16 by 16, I believe. I just had this repeated 4 times, as it's about, the length is about 4 of the grids, so 4 of the squares that I placed. And you can see that I would create it block by block. So you can see that every time it creates one, it goes up 100 in the y direction, multiplied how many times it's going up. And then we see that this negative 45 is to draw at an angle, so we get that sharp turn that lets us draw a trapezoid instead of a square. And this is the function, and this is the equation for finding the hypotenuse. That way, because if you just did if you didn't do it like this, but the way you draw a trapezoid will most likely not fit the diagonal of the grid or the square. And then we have a begin fill and end fill to color it in as navy, which is what the pattern looked like. So here's the second part, which is pretty much the same thing, but I'm pretty much rotating it 90 degrees, and then I'm also just changing the y value again. So you see the x value is changed, and that's just to not have it overlap the original one, but to move it slightly slightly away, which allows us to create our pattern again. And just like the first function I showed, it just repeats itself 4 times, which is what I want 4 times, and it just draws that out again. Here's the third function, which does the same thing again, but it rotates it from the previous one by 90 degrees. So if you start from the original drawing, it actually rotates 180 degrees. and that helps draw my third piece. My fourth piece is what finishes how our pattern looks like. And so again, I do the same thing as I did before 4 times, and I get the pattern that I desire and how many that I want. So tying everything together, we have a very long code. It's not as clean as it should be, but this gets the job done. And we see that our fourth statement is on the very top, and this is because I want to draw the grid first and have it color it in, then put my pattern on top and color it in. Because if I call the grid after, it would draw the grid on top of it, which is fine, but it would color it in, so it would look like I didn't even draw a pattern. And so this is my function, and we can run the code. Alright, and that is the pattern, and this is the function.